Oh my gosh. What about the pyramids? Now, they had something to say about the pyramids and some of these in the Bermuda Triangle and all of these things. These are things that obviously, I've heard about since I was a kid, but they have some other perspectives on these. Tell us about that.
Yes, the Great Pyramid of Egypt was actually built by a person originally from Atlantis called Thoth. And he had the spiritual knowledge and also material knowledge. He built the Great Pyramid of Egypt 17,000 years ago using anti-gravitational and supersonic vibratory systems in order to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner. He built the Great Pyramid in a 9-year period of time. Because he had such great knowledge, he was able to align the huge stones in a very precise manner so that the Great Pyramid would be used as an energy center, capturing the cosmic and terrestrial energy, so that the ancient users, like the ancient pharaohs, used it to communicate with people on different planets and also to make rain.
Hi, I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna.
And together, we created the Cognomovement system. And we'd like to welcome you to the New Life Perspectives radio show,
where we're going to be sharing with you tools, tips, and ideas that are going to change your life.
Hello in UK Health Radio Land. I'm Liz Larson, and I'm back with my friend,
Bill McKenna.
Hey, Bill McKenna. And we just happen to be the hosts of the New Life Perspectives radio show and the creators of the Cognomovement system. And today we have a guest that's especially exciting to me. I can see that I'm going to be going down a big rabbit hole for probably the next 6 months. Our guest today is the translator of the book, The Thiaooba Prophecy, which there's so much to say about this. And he's Samuel Chong. Samuel, would you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why are you sharing this information with the world?
Yes, I was born in Beijing, China in 1978, and currently I'm a Chinese translator and a certified court interpreter in Los Angeles. The reason I like to share the messages is that I think the book contains specific verifiable information that can help to create a better world in the future. But the information actually comes from ETs with advanced civilization. I was intentionally looking for such books when I was young because I thought if the ETs could come and visit us, they must have advanced technologies and information. If we just learn from them, we can actually just get a shortcut and to progress at a much faster pace. So in my subconscious mind, I was always looking for such information and books written by ET contactees. So back in 2014, I accidentally found this book on Amazon. Back then, it was titled Abduction to the Ninth Planet. And after I read it, I was so shocked and amazed at this content because it answers almost all the questions that I had in mind when I was young about the paranormal, such as the Great Pyramid of Egypt, the Bermuda Triangle, the stories in the Bible, and also some of the healing methods and our health in general.
So, health. We are talking about health information from ETs. Is that correct?
Yes, they actually gave us a very soundful advice.
Wow. Okay. So the book was translated by Michel Desmarquet. It was written by Michel Desmarquet, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Did I pronounce that correctly? Yeah.
Yes, French, Michel Desmarquet.
Yeah. And then you came in and translated and started to expand some of the information. So let's start with, is there a name of this ET group?
Yes, they're called Thiaooba. They actually come from a planet called Thiaooba. And in French, it's actually pronounced Jehovah, similar to the pronunciation of Jehovah. And indeed, there's a connection between Thiaooba and Jehovah as written in the Bible.
So for those who don't know, the name Jehovah is a pronunciation of Yahweh, YHWH, and it is the name of the Jewish God. So the pronunciation that we use is Jehovah, and it does sound similar to Thiaooba. That's super interesting. All right. So would you tell everybody how did you get introduced to this in the first place? And really what got you interested in sharing it with the world?
So after I got a book from Amazon and I checked it out also from local library, I started reading the book and I found the book to be so incredible that I couldn't put it down. In the postscript of the book, it says there are more incredible things that the author Michel de Marquet was not allowed to write in the book because we were far from understanding them. That got me extremely curious because I really wanted to find out what's more incredible that he wasn't permitted to write about. So I decided to track him down. I found out that he was living in Vietnam at that time and still alive. And that's a very good news to me. But I didn't know where exactly he was living. So I did a lot of research and found that there's a picture that a tourist took of where he was living, his bungalow. And I grabbed that picture and printed out. And I flew to Vietnam, that island in Vietnam, and showed that picture to the local taxi driver. And the taxi driver took me there. There I found him.
You went to Vietnam and showed a taxi driver a picture of a place that this person lived?
Yes, exactly. I was very lucky. I took the chance.
Well, you kind of might say that was meant to be. Isn't that incredible, Bill?
You know, that's just one of the many incredible things. I mean, it's like mind-blowing. Now, I know everybody's listening to this, and there's a real shift going on in the world right now where the evidence is all coming out that it's real. You know, I tell you, I didn't believe it. You know, when I was a kid, it was like, you're going to bore me with UFOs and ETs, you know, because it's not real. But guess what? Everybody now knows it is. Even the military and everything around the world, it's all come out that you know what? It's not tinfoil hat. It's real, and it actually is happening. Now, this story is amazing because this guy actually got taken to another planet. That's what this is all about, this whole society and way of being and information. So I find it pretty fascinating. I know it's a mind bend, but this is worth it because you're going to get some great information here. I'm so excited to hear about, you had said there was really good information about health and healing, blue light, and other things that back when it was written, nobody knew. And then the scientific evidence comes out after the fact that it's true. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, the book was written in 1989, and the event took place in 1987, before the age of the internet, especially in Australia, where he was living at that time. And according to him, and according to this book, after he entered into their spacecraft, they disinfected him using yellow light and blue light. I did some research. Harvard Medical School did a study, and it turns out that certain wavelengths of blue light have antibacterial, antiviral effects. And it's actually been proven by a lot of clinical studies. And also yellow light does have antibacterial effects. That's proven by a paper written like just a few years ago. So this actually is one of the evidence written in the book that can be verified. Also, there are other health-related information such as the human energy field. It talks about how the human energy field affects our physical body. I find that to be fascinating because I do know people who can actually see the different colors of auras, the different colors of human energy fields. And for example, a former NASA scientist called Barbara Brennan, she wrote a series of books. One of the books is called Hands of Light. And when she saw grayish color in the liver area of one of her friends, she knew that sooner or later there will be some kind of liver conditions on her friend. And it turns out that 3 months later, her friend was diagnosed of liver cancer. And other aura seers say the same thing, that they can immediately tell whether a person's health conditions is deteriorating or is improving, or a person is lying or not. So this is very interesting information.
We know this to be true
Yeah.
in the work that Bill McKenna and I do in a different way. We actually teach people to be able to feel in the space around the body. We actually contend that the nervous system extends 6 to 8 feet around the body. And that's really what people are seeing, is the extension of how the brain and the body are talking to itself. And so in that field around the body, you can feel what a person is constantly thinking. If you train your hands, you can actually feel when there is an anomaly, a problem in the body. So at one of our events, I taught a 12-year-old who was especially interested in this to feel around the body. And the person wouldn't tell her anything. And she would feel for just an anomaly in the field, like feels like cotton candy, or maybe it's a little warmer, or some people call it air jello. And she would say, is there something here? And the person would say, yeah, my neck's out, or yeah, I've got a liver thing. And then, we learned how to actually remove it from the field with our hands. It's a really small part of our work, a little aside, but we know what you're saying is accurate, and what these Thiaoobans are saying is accurate, because everyone can learn to do it and feel it. So it's there. The information about our bodies is also outside of our bodies. So it's kind of a fascinating match. So do they talk about using light, or what do they talk about using in the field to change the physical body? Was there information about that?
Well, they're saying that the field affects the physiological body and the physical body of a person. And there are several things that can change the field for the better or for worse. One of the things would be the chakras. The chakras affect the human energy field. And what affects the chakras is the power of the mind. The mind affects the chakras, and the chakras affect the field, and the field affects the health in general. He also mentioned that colors do affect the human energy field. If we wear clothes of the color that is matching to our human energy field, then it's going to improve our health in general, and people wouldn't need to take aspirins anymore. I find that to be fascinating, because certain colors of lights do have therapeutic effects. It's actually called color therapy or chromotherapy.
Yeah.
A long time ago in the 20s, until the event of the discovery of antibiotics. For example, there are clinical studies that show that the color green, have a therapeutic effect on migraines. And the participants in the clinical study got so happy about the result that they wanted to get the green color LED lights for free after the experiment. It's very interesting.
Oh, it is really interesting. It is true. Years ago, when I was a kid, I learned about wearing certain colors, but not for health, but for how we looked at them. That some of our bodies really tend to look better or resonate more with what we know now, certain colors. And that when you wear a color that really sort of matches, in their language, a skin tone, really what we know, it's our vibration, you do feel better. So my whole life, I've known that. I've known what colors really work for me. And it's true, if I'm wearing a color that's a real match to who I am, I feel great. I feel confident. I feel more present on the planet. So there's so much to this. And I think that in our society, we've forgotten some of these very, very basic things, like there are colors that resonate with us and colors that maybe don't resonate so much. If they're in resonance with us, they help our bodies. If they're out of resonance, maybe they're not so resourceful. All right, we have come up against our first break already. Amazing, fascinating conversation. So when we come back, let's get into a little bit more of some of the healing information that was brought forward by this Thiaooban group. Would you say it's a group?
A race of ET called
A race of ET.
Yes.
All right. So for right now, let's hear from the UK Health Radio. UK Health, take it away. Okay, and we are back. We are talking to Samuel Chong about some amazing information that was supposedly brought to us through the Thiaooban ET group or race. And a lot of it has to do with our health. What do you want to know, Bill, specifically? What information?
The information was quite vast, right? That's one of the things about this is we've been kind of talking about some of the physical healing things. I find it fascinating that when the book was written, these scientific facts weren't known about blue and yellow light waves and the antibacterial or quality of these particular lights. And now it's common knowledge. You go to the dentist, right? And they're using those lights now, right? In 1978, that would have been ridiculous to think it. But just to cross-validate this, there was the significance of this has been not just in this book. There was another guy who worked in actually recovered downed UFO craft at a place called S4, Area 51, and he came forward and said, "Hey, whistleblower, hey, you know what? This is real." And he was discredited, and they tried to do that, like take away his MIT degree in physics and all kinds of stuff. But I find it funny because he would talk about, I believe it was plutonium or something like that. It was another element, and that is absolutely crazy making, right? There's no such thing as this other element.
And guess what? Element 115, right?
Yeah, I think something like that, right? 115 or 151, something, I don't know. But anyway, unbelievably, hey, guess what? It's true. It came out. At first it was theoretical. Oh, it could be, decades later, and then, it's actually true. So anyway, like I say, the truth is coming out. So this stuff also in this book, if you think like, oh, that sounds like a lot of malarkey, well, look to the scientific evidence, right? Was this existing prior to publication? When this thing was originally came up, right? Was it known? So that helps for me in particular to know, hey, you know what? Maybe this is worth looking into here. Maybe somebody knows something. But the thing that I'm really, one of the many things, I know Liz is chomping at the bit here with so many questions, but reincarnation, they had some other viewpoints on reincarnation. I'm curious about, tell us about what they came forward with on that.
Well, they say that the reason for the crucifixion of Christ and also the resurrection of Christ was to show people that there is life after death and there is reincarnation. But somehow the concept of reincarnation was later removed by the Catholic Church Council meetings from the Bible. So there is reincarnation for sure, because some of the evidence by medical doctors such as Ian Stevenson and Dr. Michael Newton and Dr. Brian Weiss all show that there is strong evidence for reincarnation. So when we die, our astral body leaves the physical body. And after 3 days, 81% of the electrons of the astral body rejoins with our higher self. And the other 19% remains in nature until a person reincarnates again. And actually,
So, well, wait a second. Hold on. You say so 19% remains. There's a bit, 19% of your consciousness remains in the physical earth. Is
In
that
the
what you
physical-
just said?
yes, and this is the reason why some people say that they can see ghosts. What they're seeing is the 19% of electrons. And because of the static forces, the 19% of electrons resemble the person who just passed away, the shape, the appearance. And because electrons have memories, ghosts frequently haunt places they loved or hated. So this is the explanation given in the book about ghosts. But Michel de Marquet was actually shown his past lives, his 80 past lives, briefly. And he was like a German mining worker. He was goldsmith in Japan. And he had all these kind of different experiences in his past lives. So this book is very unique in the sense that it validates a lot of the newest scientific evidence that medical doctors have shown us recently.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. So what I'm curious about, Samuel, is why is this group interested in humans? Why are they interested enough in the earth that they would make contact and give somebody this information?
Well, they have always been watching us and guiding us and mentoring us in the ancient past, and they've been doing that all the time. So we know that in the Bible, there's a record about the destruction of the two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. And there's the story about Moses leading the Hebrews out of Egypt. And this is actually, according to this book, their doing. They were responsible for the two cities' demise. They were responsible for guiding Moses out of Egypt, parting the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea, but the Sea of Reeds, giving the Hebrews manna from the spacecraft. And they were responsible for the birth of Jesus, born out of Virgin Mary. So they say that if we describe the Star of Bethlehem nowadays, people would see, oh, it's a UFO or UAP. So this is very interesting. It's kind of recorded in the Bible. It's just that the language that they used in the past was different. And they were responsible for sending Christ to us. And by the way, Jesus and Christ are two different beings, according to this book. This explains why there's no record in the Bible describing Jesus performing any miracles before the age of 30, and why some people say that Jesus went to India, and why there's a tomb of Jesus Christ in Shingo Village, Japan, that people can still visit. And they are responsible for preventing Germany from being the first country to develop the atomic bomb. And they were responsible for collecting the hundreds of millions of needles that the US government sent into space in the 1960s, believing that that would cause a lot of harm to the people on Earth. So they actually have been constantly helping us and guiding us behind the scenes. And this book reveals their activities to Michel de Marquet because they say we are at a very critical moment of time. We need to change our ways of living. We need to focus more on the spiritual development of our lives and not to be involved into material accumulation or accumulation of wealth. Because if we focus too much on wealth and the materialistic aspect of our lives, we're going to be heading to a downfall. And this book serves as a warning to us from the ETs who have been watching us and guiding us throughout history. And by having Michel de Marquet to visit their planet and writing what he personally experienced, they're hoping that people can wake up and be able to respond to the challenges that they all face in their lifetime, and also the problems and the issues around the world. We can change the future for the better. It really depends on how we respond to certain situations that are happening right now on Earth.
You know, it's really interesting. I don't know, Samuel, if you're familiar with the Law of One material. Is that something you've heard of in the past?
No, not really.
No. You know, it has a lot of similarities to what we're talking about here. And it's a group that a group of channels ask a lot of questions of. And it's old. It's from the 80s and 90s. But one of the things they were asked is, why? So why don't you just come and rescue us? Why don't you show up and make everything correct? And so the answer I thought was interesting, and it makes me think about what you're saying as well. The answer was that we did that again and again and again, like the appearance of Jesus, who could show people how to heal and show people how to live, meaning love your neighbor, take care of the people around you. Don't worry about, and a lot of people are not going to love this, but he didn't care if they were Jews or Gentiles or didn't have any religion or pagan. He still was willing to accept them as his neighbor, as someone he would care about. This is that message. But in the law of one, they say the problem is that you people keep turning it into a religion and then hurting each other with it. So that now, in this day and age, when it's so critical that the information is being given to many people around the planet, and for them to then share the information. Do you think that is kind of what was happening with Michel Desmarquet and this visit and then the book?
I do. I think they also pointed out that the dangers on Earth are number one, money, number two, politicians, number three, journalists and drugs, number four, religions. And they say that organized religions always distort the original meanings of the ancient scriptures to their advantage. They're also saying that the reason that they haven't really shown up and appeared to us is that, like, if a parent wants to teach his or her child like a mathematical problem, a parent, if he is or she is wise and smart, basic principles will be taught to the child. And the child would try to find ways to solve the problems on his or her own. And the parent wouldn't give the answers to a mathematical problem directly to the child. Similarly, the ETs never serve the meal on a plate. So they try to guide us, but it's up to us to struggle and to survive and to learn the different lessons that are important to our continuous survival on Earth. And similarly, there's another story given by Daniel Sheehan, the former counsel for the Disclosure Project. There's a rare species of butterfly that a scientist found, and it's trying to come out from the cocoon. And being a kind-hearted scientist, and he opened the cocoon and helped the butterfly to come out. The butterfly later came out, except for one thing: it couldn't fly, because it had to go through the struggling process on its own in order to be able to fly. Similarly, we have to be able to go through the struggling process on our own and take our own actions in order to survive as a species on Earth.
But we absolutely know this to be 101% true. In the work that Bill and I do, we teach our practitioners never to give the answer, to let the nervous system come up with its own answer, because when the person discovers it for themselves, they get to keep it. If we give the answer that we think is the answer, most of the time we're 100% wrong, but also the person doesn't get to keep it. It's not theirs. So I often have thought about that butterfly experiment as well, that the butterfly does have to struggle against the cocoon to build, I don't know if butterflies have muscles, but build the strength to fly. So it is important that we do learn these things for ourselves, but we humans seem to be pretty hard-headed. We seem to keep rejecting the same message again and again. All right, we are now up for our next break. Let's hear from the UK Health Radio Network. UK Health, take it away. And we're back. We're talking with Samuel Chong about some amazing things. The book, The Thiaooba Prophecy, ETs, healing, and how there's a lot of things we do to each other that injure each other, including our politics and our religion and our money. So did the Thiaoobans give a resolution? Did they give a way for us to change all of this?
Yes. collective consciousness, concerted actions using nonviolent resistance to rise up against tyranny, so that the powers, the financiers, would have to cater to our demands, our wishes, the wishes of the people. Because if you really think about it, violence never pays. Napoleon tried it, Hitler tried it, they all failed. Even Genghis Khan failed, even though he conquered a vast territory of land. Because the most important thing is the cultivation of minds. Through love and compassion, people can unite and get together. Otherwise, if we are keep dividing against each other, the whole world and the whole society would disintegrate. So only through nonviolent resistance, we can rise up and voice our opinions out. It actually gives a very interesting example on a different planet, in which it only took about 4 people to make a dictatorship government or authoritarian government to become democratic and spiritual. The 4 people protested in front of the palace of the government, and they were killed. A few months later, everyone woke up and they decided to act together and have a strike. And everyone was in synergy and in the same action with another. And they just resisted everything, just like what Gandhi did in India and what Martin Luther King preached, using nonviolent resistance and love to really help to make the change. And I think this is the best solution for our future.
Really, really interesting. So, Bill, what else do you want to know about the Thiaoubans? What's boiling in your mind?
Oh my gosh. What about the pyramids? Now, they had something to say about the pyramids and some of these in the Bermuda Triangle and all of these things. These are things that obviously, I've heard about since I was a kid, but they have some other perspectives on these. Tell us about that.
Yes, the Great Pyramid of Egypt was actually built by a person originally from Atlantis called Thoth. And he had spiritual knowledge and also material knowledge. He built the Great Pyramid of Egypt 17,000 years ago using anti-gravitational and supersonic vibratory systems in order to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner. He built the Great Pyramid in a 9-year period of time. Because he had such great knowledge, he was able to align the huge stones in a very precise manner so that the Great Pyramid would be used as an energy center, capturing the cosmic and terrestrial energy, so that the ancient users, like the ancient pharaohs, used it to communicate with people on different planets and also to make rain. Archaeologists also found out that in ancient Egypt, there were a lot of rainfall near the pyramid region, and this actually serves as another proof that indeed the Great Pyramid of Egypt was used to make rain. Another study by the University of Reading was that they projected energy into the sky, into the clouds. They ionized the clouds and what they call the organ energy, and then rain would fall. So this is another a scientific proof and experiment that they did recently to kind of corroborate what a book wrote about 40 years ago.
So it turns out that this thing, right, this pyramid, which is, by the way, it makes perfect sense, right? The actual precision of the cuts, if you ever look at this stuff, absolute precision, not only the cuts, but the placement and the volume, anti-gravitational technology and having technology that could actually cut these things and place them so precisely to be aligned cosmically, like it's actually perfectly aligned with, I think it's Orion, but amazingly within a fraction of a degree to be able to align these things. And so what I'm hearing is that this was not only a technology to help locally, right, with rainfall, but probably what you're saying here is that it was interstellar as well, which makes sense if he was off planet communication type device.
Yes, it's an energy center, a communication, like a tool. And actually, what was there are also other statues on Earth, like the statues of on the Easter Island. They're actually made using similar or the same technologies. But the Great Pyramid was actually built as a tool, an energy center for the ancient Egyptians to use, the ancient pharaohs to use.
Do you mean like power, like electricity, energy?
Yes, it's more like another form of energy, not electric energy, but a different form of cosmic energy.
And so was it true, there's some speculation that the obelisks that the Egyptians used and are placed all around the world, that they were a transmitter of that energy? Is that accurate to what you know from the book?
Yeah. Similarly, yes, the Great Pyramid of Egypt was actually used as a transmitter of the energy from the user into the other location in space.
Oh, in space, but not on planet Earth?
On planet Earth, it's also possible as well, just as making the rain, that process is actually a transfer of the energy or transmission of the energy.
You know, the making of the rain, that's an interesting with the orgone energy. I don't remember the man's name, but I remember hearing some extensive interviews for a while. You don't hear much anymore about a man who created a device that does that. It's a quite simple device, uses orgone gas to create rain. And he talked about doing it in places like Israel, where they were struggling so much with water, and other places. So that actually has been proven. But for the most part, we don't use it. Just a handful of people know about it. So do the Thiaoobans give an expiration date? Do they give a time frame in which the population has to become awakened to this information?
This is a very interesting question. This actually relates to the one thing that Michel de Marquet was not allowed to write in the book. Well, I can give you a hint, is that if you know Enoch, the story of Enoch, you know that he was taken away by gods, by the Thiaoobans or Jehovahans. He has a book, the Book of Enoch. And Michel de Marquet, after he came back from Thiaooba, he read the Book of Enoch. He found it to be extremely interesting because he believed that Enoch was taken by the Thiaoobans, the same group of ETs that took him, because of the resemblance and similarities of the descriptions of the planet Thiaooba and what Enoch described in the Book of Enoch. If you look at history in the past, a few decades later, Noah, the great-grandson of Enoch, was told to build an ark. And Michel de Marquet wrote the book in 1989. And you can just use a similar analogy and to derive like a future range of dates.
Interesting. So I don't understand that exactly. So Enoch was taken by the Thiaoobans, we think. And then tell me how that translates to Noah. So was Noah directed to build the ark by the Thiaoobans? Is that what we are extrapolating?
Well, according to one historian, Noah built an ark between 40 to 60 years after Enoch was taken away by gods.
Okay.
So this is the range of timeline that we are thinking about. So I think this is something that people need to read the book Thiaooba Prophecy in order to understand the logics and also the purpose of the Thiaoobans trying to guide us and mentoring us into the future. So I think it's important for people to read the Bible more objectively from a historical perspective, and also to read the book Thiaooba Prophecy and to combine the two books together in order to reach a conclusion.
Interesting. So I'll refer back to the law of one material one more time, because there are similarities, and many people believe they're getting these same kind of downloads that all lead to, we really need to raise our consciousness.
Yes.
We need to be more aware. It's something Bill and I are actively teaching The way we're doing it is through having people no longer carry around the traumas in their bodies. We're actually raising the voltage in the physical body through having the body delete patterns of trauma and things that the body's focused on from the past. And in the end, what would happen is, and what does happen is, people tend to see the world very, very differently. You know, they stop focusing on all the negativity in life and focus on what can happen. They become very generative. They are able to manifest, if you want to put it that way. They heal. Lives change when their body and mind are free to focus on these really higher level things, when the body's not so consumed with all the bad things in life. And I'm curious, is this what they're talking about? Because they say we need to raise our spirituality, but what does that mean specifically?
Well, spirituality means how to live a better life, but they say we should also focus on the power of the mind, because whatever they do, whatever Christ did after he began preaching, performing all the miracles, it's always through the power of the mind. The Thiaoobans could levitate. They could perform all the different miracles performed by Christ. And Michel de Marquet wanted them to teach him how to levitate, and they didn't respond to his request, indicating that Michel de Marquet wasn't really into, even if he stayed like a few more years, he wouldn't be able to learn the techniques. But at the end of the book, it talks about meditation and concentration, indicating that everything they did, all the miracles and all the healings could be done through meditation and concentration. And the two are different. Meditation is a technique in which people just quiet their minds down so that their brain waves would go to the alpha range. And then they would, using their subconscious mind, they would focus their attention and concentrate in order to achieve their intention. For example, if they want their future to be very, very prosperous, they can just imagine what their future is like, and then to concentrate on the image that the future will likely to appear to be that way. So this is what they're getting at. I think this is very consistent to what you're teaching to the public as well.
Yeah, there's the problem with manifesting and concentrating with the mind, that the body's in absolute controversy with the mind. Like, I see that thing, I want a better life, but I feel terrible. I feel frustrated and in fear and in shame and in guilt. And the two things don't work together. So that's what our work does, is it works on getting that feeling out of the body so that the mind can focus clearly on that. You know, you can meditate, you can think clearly. Okay, so this book was written a while ago, and Michel de Marquet wrote the book and got it out, and you're now making it more public. Is there more information? Is this information being updated? Is there a continual conversation?
Well, after Michel de Marquet wrote the book, he also mentioned two other things that the Thiaoobans sent to him, the messages that were sent to him telepathically. One message was related to the Sphinx. There are 3 chambers beneath the Sphinx. When we are ready and when they can be opened, everything will be known. This is, I find, to be very interesting because it's consistent to what Edgar Cayce said about the Sphinx. And also the other message is about the Greys, the ETs, who some people claim put implants on us. Yes, they did. By the year 1995, there were about 150 people or so had the implants from the Greys. But the Greys also come from a category 1 planet, they're a dying race. And they try to do that. They did that to us just to monitor our activities, how we respond to the same situation, because we have been losing our immune system since 1948, and they have been losing their immune system since a long time ago. And but there's absolutely no harm from the implants, because the Thiaoobans are also watching their activities. And also, Bill mentioned about the retrieval of crashed UFO spaceships. I think if they crash on Earth, that means their technology is not that far advanced because they crashed. There are spacecrafts that didn't crash and won't crash, such as the ones from the Thiaoobans. We should learn from the best. We should learn from the masters. So we should learn from the Thiaoobans, the inhabitants of a Category 9 planet, not the inhabitants from a Category 1 planet, the Greys. So I think people, if they really want to gain knowledge and live a better life and know how to respond to the challenges that they're going to face in the future, they should get a book, Thiaooba Prophecy. And reading this book has been the best investment I ever made in my entire life. And remember, I majored in economics and financial analysis. I know what investment is. So
Yeah.
this book is the best investment.
So we just have 4 minutes left. And I want Bill to get one more question in, and also for you, Samuel, to think about for a second what you really want people to know, what you want people to do next. So Bill, do you have one last short question for Samuel?
Samuel, you just mentioned this whole thing around implants. Again, it sounds like crazy talk until it ain't. And it turns out that there's a bunch of scientific evidence of these for people who want to research it. Dr. Lear, Lear, and it turns out, again, it happens to be true. So there's some of us that wake up with these little indents in our body, and we just are like, what the heck is that? Why do I have a dot or 3 dots or 2 dots? It looks like I got bit by a viper or something, in the middle of the night. What the heck? I don't remember getting bit. So anyway, regarding these implants, is this just simply the Greys, or are other races doing it? And you said they're collecting data, or are they providing any benefit? Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to help you out. I see you're a little light on the health of your liver. Let me help you out a little bit. What's going on there?
Well, the Greys certainly did it, and actually, a friend of mine in Los Angeles, she got an implant from the Greys. And she said that the Greys also helped her to heal some of her problems, like issues and injuries. And it's like an exchange. They monitor our activities in exchange. They also help us. But I'm only talking about the implants from the Greys, from the ETs. I also heard that there may be some other activities by the secret government programs that are not from the ETs. And those are different stories that we can elaborate in the future. But the Greys are not harming us at all, and if they have the intention of harming us, then the Thiaoobans would have prevented them from doing so. And this is actually the reason why we haven't been back on the moon for 50 years.
Yeah. Okay, Samuel, we have 1 minute left. Will you please let people know how they can find you, how they can find out more, and what is the one thing, the biggest thing you hope they'll take away from this information?
People can find me by searching on Google. My name is Samuel Chong at Thiaooba Prophecy, Thiaooba Prophecy, and I'm also on Facebook. The best information that people, some of the people can get information that when you experience life challenges, whether it's physical or relationship or health-wise, just to look inside for answers and not to look outside from like a pastor or religious organization, because the kingdom of God is within you. You can meditate or pray or just have a good night of sleep to connect with your higher self to get the answers. If the answers are good for your spiritual growth, they will be provided to you. Just look inside for answers, not outside.
That's absolutely beautiful. Okay, you guys, we are done for today. We're out of time.
All right.
Okay, we froze. All right, you guys, that is it for today. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Samuel. Thanks so much, Bill McKenna. And I encourage everybody, if this strikes interest in your heart, go down the rabbit hole. For one, it'll be a lot of fun, but you might be able to get some really great information and change your life. All right, until next week, be safe and be well. We'll see y'all real soon.
Thank you.